Oh, I got 7:06 English time.
11:06.
It's 11:06. Okay. Well, what we're going to do is we are going to be forget wanna. All right. It's one of those things like don't say try, just do it. Right. We will be here at 11 tomorrow morning. With or without paperwork. You know? And I do hope that everybody has, I would love to say an enjoyable time. It would be so nice if workshops became enjoyable rather than grueling, because they usually they're pretty grueling with the level of data that's given and the amount of tiredness. But if we get rid of the tiredness factor, stay on time, and just keep the hysteria. Yeah. Anyway, we will start with the rundown on looking at what was Plan A in September of 2000 and how do we progress. And we're not going to go through it by minute detail because I didn't have time to go through all the books to find all the references to all that stuff. So I'll talk about what I can remember. And at this point, they're deleting files out of my memory like you wouldn't believe to make room for the next level. It's like asking me when my birthday is and I have to go, wait a minute, let me go find that. Where did I put that? Yeah. Yeah. So workshops do tend to be a bit manic on occasion, just for anybody new. I'm used to, I'm not a public speaker, first of all. In fact, we dropped out of college because we had a public speaking class. And we had a really great speech. We got an A on the written part, right? And then we were supposed to stand up in front of the class and read it. No, we were terrified, right? Between that and the fact that we had a communist history teacher who graded everything on a curve because he was socialist and felt it was fair to everyone that way. Right? Between those two things, we dropped out of junior college. Right? So I'm not a public speaker. I probably make a million different mistakes in the book of public speaking and what you're supposed to do and not supposed to do. And people still listen, so I must make some kind of sense. So hopefully you will find the presentations interesting and enjoyable, and most importantly, informative in a way that can help you in your own life. Everybody comes to any kind of workshops like this, mine or other people's, because they're looking for something. They're looking for a bit of information that will help them find another bit of themselves, because they sense there's a piece of themselves in there, a bigger piece, a stronger piece, a more free piece that feels more them. That's why people go for spiritual enlightenment, because they want to find more of who they are, more of themselves, because they feel something's missing. And a lot of what that is their connection to Source. We all have one. This material tends to be attractive to people because it shows you quite specifically how you're connected to Source. And it shows you the science, and it shows you the spirit together, where they're not divorced from each other. One thing that we're going to learn about is the hub. You thought the echo maps were hard to draw. You should have seen these. Oh, if it wasn't for Az and the CAD computer, we wouldn't have a picture of the hub. We just have to imagine. I know I said that already. I'm restating the obvious. So, I brought it back to hub for a certain reason, not because I'm going in circles, dear, but because I wanted to suggest, well,
I really want to go back to work.
Okay,
Right.
we're going.
Can I go?
If you'd like to, yes. Okay. Yeah, there's still, what Az is doing right now is he's cleaning up section 7, 8, no, 9. No, section 9 in the Cathara manual that we have to have by 8 o'clock in the morning, the master ready to give so they can run it off. So it's here for the people who have been waiting a year for it. This is for the back-ordered one.
3 pages to go.
Yeah.
Ish. Well, it was 160
Yeah.
at the beginning of the year. Now it's almost 300, and tomorrow
Yeah.
morning it'll be
Yeah, if it ever gets the word text in, it'll be 500. Anyway, I brought it back to the hub for a reason.
All right.
Okay, the reason I brought the conversation back to the hub was because, really quick little anecdote, about 2 months ago, the beloved started to say to me when I was doing my dial-up at night, saying, and I'd be like really bugged about something, or there was a certain period of time where there was certain frequencies flying in the planetary grids that you just felt agitated, and you just felt like you were in the wrong space-time, just didn't belong here, and I don't know where I belong, but not here, you know, like somebody put you on the wrong space-time continuum. And it had to do with the interference in the grids that the UIR were running with the Buddhara. Now, they told me to do something, and they said, when you lay down and you finish your dial-up or whatever it is that you're running to keep your field secure when you go to sleep. If you know dial-up, do dial-up. If you don't know dial-up, do something you learned today before you go to sleep, because that just activates more of the higher frequency in your fields to give you more protection. But they said, just go to the hub. And there was a feel to that kind of went, oh, yeah, that feels good. What's the hub? Some part of me knew, because it felt the H word, the hub. There was this great sense of safety that I felt when they said that to me. But then my logical self was going, okay, great, I'll go to the hub. Where is the hub? How do I go to the hub? Can you point me in the right direction? Anybody seen the hub? Can you give me a symbol to look, to use as the hub, just to get there? And they said, just use the suggestion. The rest of your being knows where it is. So I said, okay, I'll go to the hub. Go to the hub, go to the hub. I'm going to the hub. I am in the hub now. And I would go to sleep, giving myself these suggestions. I am now in the hub. I am on my way to the hub. I do that when I wanted to see if I could find out where it was. Right? I'm on my way to the hub. Where is it? Okay, I just passed Eka 7. Right? No. I never got to see much scenery on the way there. It was just like I just couldn't remember anything. But I would find in the morning, I would wake up with a clarity, and I would just feel calm. And the more I went to the hub, the stronger I felt the connection with the hot tours, but not just the hot tours.
What day was that?
I felt the connection to source through, like beyond the hot tours, in a way that I've only been able to do when I was completely what would we consider dead here, not in a body at all. Right? There's something with the hub technologies that will help us to connect with what is called our core imprint. Everything that is out here is an outpicturing. Any body form, any consciousness form. It implies that everything out here has its indelible first imprint in the hub. Now, it is a part of your being. Some people can never go back to the hub, like those who get Metatronicked, because they will literally, the hub it's a free will system within the confines of pure Christic law, which means you can't break Christic natural law of energy there, because it just transmutes stuff and sends it back to space dust. So something that has got its template compromised, say something fully Metatronicked, cannot go back through the gates to the hub, because it will incinerate on contact. It will heal right back to source, space dust. Now, those of us who have any bit of frequency, of Christic frequency left, do have the ability to make the connection to the hub. The Cantaria temples can help with this, and this is what they're teaching us about now. This is the beginning of being able to find what once upon a time would be considered our perfect expression of self, the perfect self, the core self that all of our probable selves and incarnational selves originally came out of. Every version of your body, you have its perfected version in the hub worlds. They are the between worlds, the worlds between the manifest and the demanifest. And this is the beginning. So if you want to begin playing with this, just tell yourself before you go to sleep, give yourself the suggestion, I'll go to the hub. I'm in my hub now. I go to my hub now. And then I used to get into the talk about being overly intellectual. I used to go, okay, well, I know there's more than one hub. Do you want me to go to the Vecca hub, or the Eka hub, or the Akasha hub? And they said, just go to the Rashareisha hub. Okay, and I found out today that was the Akasha level. So, if you want to be specific, say, I will go to the Rashareisha hub. If you want to just get there, try hub. As long as it's mine, hub. Right, my Christic hub. That's good enough. So anyway, I just wanted to leave you with that. And I think that's all. I just want to make sure I didn't forget, because I was making notes to myself here, which I don't usually do. Yeah, end with, so that's all right, yeah. Tonight. Yeah, the hub. Okay. There's one more thing I wrote here, and I want to see what I said. Oh, yeah. Just real quickie. Little thing I don't think I mentioned, but maybe I did, but I don't think I did. One of the things that we will be playing with technique-wise on Sunday is they're going to teach us the proper use of a pentagram. Now, we've taught for ages not to use 5-pointed stars, yet we did use them in Tangible Structure of the Soul to activate the archetype level, all right, the density 2 level. There's a lot more to, they're misused terribly on this planet, and if you don't use them in a certain way, it's the way I don't know how to use them yet, so I don't use them at all, but they're going to teach us how to do this by Sunday, right? If you don't use them with certain calibration things, they get tied up in the 23.5 degree shift of the planetary axis, and you end up going into what are called Shona field, and that's what you don't want to do. That's the dead light fields, and that's what gets you into black hole stuff. So we've always taught, just leave them alone until we're taught how to use them properly. They are a key. They say it was like putting the ignition key in the Merkaba vehicle, and they're going to teach us how to begin using them properly in the context of the coding that we've already used, the Akasha codes and those kind of things. I don't know what this looks like yet, but I know it's coming. So I just wanted to mention that. They're going to teach us the proper use of the pentagram as far as its Christic expression and how it is naturally used as the ignition key to the Merkaba vehicle. So I'll stop now.
Can we just have a clear run? And can we move on?
You know what? Thank you, and welcome, and I hope you enjoy being here with us this weekend. What? Huh?
Yes.
What? Do you want to say something?
Hmm?
Did you want to say something? Say hello, yeah, that's a good thing.
Hi, Sid. Okay, my fan turned up. Okay, you'll start getting settled before you go home on Sunday. Won't they, Sid? Yeah. I said you start getting settled before you go home on Sunday. It was just another joke that you didn't laugh at. Stuff you. Anyway, we're going back to work now. To be serious for a moment, tonight's not a night to stop us and make us talk for ages, please. We just want to go and get on with it, okay? So just let us go tonight, please. Okay? God bless.
Everybody, thanks for your patience. It looks like no matter how good intentions I might have, guardian time is guardian time, and it works out that way. It's been a very long night. I got about an hour or so sleep when we first got in, and Az and I did shifts. He was up till about 5:30 this morning and then did his hour or so, and he's up there still doing graphs. Now the graphs, this was interesting. I was trying to balance what we needed to do guardian time-wise with a little issue, and I'm going to state this issue just for, I don't know if the people who are involved with it are with us today or not, but in case they watch this video, we were pressured into getting the K23 manual done now because it's been so long on back order that certain people were trying to project their own, say, fears of being taken advantage of, which they weren't, and that's not what we were intending to do on us. And they were making little innuendos about threatening, to get us in trouble for having stuff on back order for that long. We had to have them ready to go for the people who had ordered them before, just to clear it, to get it done. Now, I just wanted to let you know that we've been trying to balance that with it. I've been working on this manual for a year. The transmission that linked it all together, where some of the words could be put in, came through in the last 3 days. So that's why it waited. It didn't get the words, but it got some of the pictures, which is good because I wanted you guys to have those things because it was so fragmented before. It was very hard to understand. So you will have your manuals, at least with that much, some of the new data. That's what we're still working on putting together. There's some of the same graphs that you'll see tomorrow that we need for the presentation for tomorrow. So I just wanted you to understand that we're also dealing with this. And because of this, it's kind of like just because a few people and their worries and impatience penalized everyone else, because what I would have liked to have done is waited till this transmission was done, taken even one more month to do it, and you would have had words and everything in there. But as it goes, we're going to have to put the words, and it may take a year at this point to get it in because there's other stuff that's priority at this point. But we're going to try to do an instructor supplementary manual that will have the texts that people who have the program and have the book, that we're giving now as the workshop manual, they will be like pages that go in between those pages. As far as if you want to teach people this stuff, it would be helpful to have blocks of written text that you can understand yourself first, right before you try to explain to someone. So we're going to have to go that route. It'll end up on the product list probably next year. But I wanted to understand why some of the pressure was 3D pressure that we've been under. At this point, we just pay our bills. We don't even own a house. We rent a house, and we can't afford to be sued for something stupid. But it's also going to affect how much commitment we can make to how much paperwork we can give you. Because what's most important is getting you the techniques and trying to explain to you what the newest level of data is, even if you only get to see it once in 6 months before those graphs are ready. At least you got the frequencies and the techniques that you needed. So we're just going to have to be very careful anymore and not make promises as far as having something the size of the K23 manual ready. I think there's over 320 pages now. That's without the words. All right. That's just pages of diagrams and pictures and all of that kind of thing. So anyway, between that and getting tomorrow's ready and getting today's ready, that's why we're late. But we're hopefully, particularly, I know that people who come a lot, bless you, you've been so good. And maybe if it really irked you at first, you kind of became immune after a while, because we've had really rough ones where it was, I think Ireland was the worst, one of the Ireland ones where we ended up, going to breakfast afterward because we got down there at 3 in the morning. The data flow came in right when workshop time was supposed to start, and it was so technical. It was on, I think that might have been Cosmic Clock or one of those, but real intense stuff. And I'm going, what is this stuff? How am I supposed to teach this stuff? I don't even understand this stuff, right? So that one was about the worst, but people were very good about it. We all kind of, like a lot of people, went out to breakfast together when we left the workshop room because it was after dawn. I do not like to do this to you. And for the people who are newcomers, I do apologize. It's almost like an initiation that we don't set up, but the universe does. It's a test in patience, and a test in perhaps we're all learning something that that I don't even look at sometimes, is we have this, let's say, orientation to sextant clock time, which is the distortion in the planetary shield's time. It is a much shorter time. It's more compacted feeling time. You can get less accomplished in an increment of that shield time. And perhaps by having our boundaries pushed and tested, we can frustrate ourselves when we encounter situations. Imagine the people in Louisiana, how frustrated they were. Forget time when stuff like that happens. Because it doesn't matter. It may be, a week, or if you're in America, 2 weeks, before anybody brings any food or aid or water or anything to you. So perhaps there is a lesson, a deeper spiritual lesson in these time delays and juggling of schedules. We don't do them on purpose if there are, but hopefully the newcomers especially will understand what the people who have been with us for a while have come to understand, is that we don't do this to you out of disrespect. It's not that we are off, having fun and doing anything. If I come in here pie-eyed, it's because I haven't slept in any normal framework. At least I got like an hour and a half last night, which was really good, because sometimes I've gone through 3 days of workshop with no sleep at all, and that's when I just talk on autopilot. And it still makes sense, funny, when you listen to the videos. But if you ask me what I said 3 sentences back, I'll just look at it. Somewhere in my crystal body, it recorded it. That kind of thing. So anyway, we are here now. And the most important, I would say, looking at, and I felt this too when I was speaking with you last night, the most important body of data will be in the revelation of the new material that both the newcomers and the people who've been with us can understand and get benefit from. That is still an ongoing dispensation that will be ready for tomorrow, God willing, with lots and lots of graphs, but you'll see at least some of the graphs. Some of these graphs, and see, some of them go in the K23 manual. Those will be typeset because they have to be for the manual, but the ones that come in the series after those, that aren't in this manual because they're literally Cathara level 5 stuff. We didn't even get to 4 yet. We've been doing the Pillar of Power stuff that's going to be Cathara 4. But this is jumping to Cathara 5 so you can understand some of the basic things about the hub, because the technologies we're going to have to work with from this point forward are about this mysterious place called the hub that we'd never even heard of. I remember that go to the hub, yeah, that sounds really good. It sounds really personal, like, personal spiritual connection. I feel a resonance there. Where is it? What is it? Don't worry about it. Your being knows how to get there. Great. So I go. I don't know I don't have any memory from when I go, but I feel much better after I come back. So this is a good thing. I get clarity there. I can shift physical stuff there. Like I've been getting a lot. All right, I'm just getting tapped on the shoulder to talk about this. If there's physical symptoms happening with a lot of people, not just in our groups, but on the planet right now. There's something that they're going to tell us more about, I believe, tomorrow. This has to do with the third announcement they want to make that I don't know either, any of it. I don't know anything about it, but I'm getting a feel it has to do with these physical things. If you're getting any physical symptoms like palpitations of the heart, the manic or the real depression or the really strange chemical swings in the body that may come out as the heats or colds, or also, I don't mean cold sneezing, I mean shivers, that kind of thing. These things have to do with what is happening with the wormholes and why we are going into evac engage as of November, because of what is being run in the planetary grids by the UIR and the Buddhara together. So our bodies are purging. If we're the indigo shield, whether the person is awake or not, is connected to the indigo shield. If you have indigo coding, you will be picking up those pulses first and more intense, because the indigo shield is the buffer shield on this planet. We were the top guardian races that came in to protect the others and to help the others get their DNA healed. So we will get the first brunt of it, whether or not we ever go to a workshop. So I just want you to understand, if you're getting any weird ones, there are some strange ones running today. I felt them. There's a jittery one that happens. I can always tell a Wisadrac one. These are a different signature than the basic UIR, because they come up from the feet. You don't feel heat, but all of a sudden this wave that makes your teeth chatter runs through you, and it feels horrible. You can feel it going up your main vertical column, and it just goes, and you kind of like shake inside. And I've literally felt it so bad on occasion where I've had to ask the beloveds to please help me hold my fields and to stabilize the Merkaba, because the Merkabas want to fly all over the place. Like if you start to become aware of the feel of your Merkaba vortices around you, which at some point you'll start to feel the presence of your Merkaba, you'll be able to tell whether its top point is pointing up or whether it's tilting forward or over to the side, that kind of thing. And when you get to that point where you can observe it, you can see what these pulses do. I mean, the thing goes like this. It whacks it off spin, it starts to flop. And if it's doing that to the Merkaba outside around you, what's it doing to the little Merkabas and everything else inside of you? Now, indigos are strong enough to transmute these pulses, but it isn't always easy. Sometimes it hurts, sometimes you feel terrible. I've been pretty sick since Morocco. They knocked me literally out of body in Morocco during the last event at whatever what was that place? I forget. Volubulus? Yes, at Volubulus. But we managed to get through to that point. It was really strange because I couldn't get back into body for about an hour, I think it was, as I had to carry me from the van into the hotel. And that's weird because I'm pretty independent and that really bugs me, that kind of stuff, you know. And then they took out my kitty within the next couple of weeks. So we had a cat that was actually an Elohai. Her name was Elohai as well. And she got ran over. Yeah, and then a fox ate 2 of our chickens. It's like, at what point do you say this is just coincidence? So you start to say, somebody got something personal against me here. Yeah, anyway. There are some, at this point, this isn't one of the announcements. It's kind of like tacked on to one of the announcements, that they do want us to be aware, because most people that come to the workshops are indigo, or at least part indigo, of the indigo race lines, and minimum angelic human. Now, for the indigo race lines, there has been an official war edict issued by the Buddhara races, the Chanterelle, against the indigos personally. Not just us down here. We're kind of almost inconsequential. But it's because of something called the Hathar host, where the Hathor high councils, of which indigos are representative of, as well as the Adonai and the Iane and the Iani, they have all agreed to assist the falling races that want to set up a Christic-based falling system in the Wisa black hole system, since the place is going to fall anyway. There is still a way. You can still act with Christic integrity. You can still relearn how to do that, and you can still create a peaceful life while you have it, even though you might not have eternal life potential anymore, even if you're Metatronic, if you choose to honor Christic principle. Well, there's a bunch of them, particularly ones that are associated with the Anu races, that are at this point realizing the deals they made with the Wisadex, and then the Wisadex made deals with the Buddhara, have really got them in trouble. And what they're going to find themselves is assimilated, which means it's kind of like, it's sort of like, well, they are the spider people. They call the Buddhara the spider people. They have a way of using energy that's very much like spider venom, where once it's injected in, it dissolves from the inside out, and they just consume their prey. And that is basically what some of the falling races who made deals with them found themselves facing, and they didn't realize it. It's kind of like they're used to playing that game with other people, you know, like, oh, come on, make a deal with us, and then they stab you in the back. Well, they just found out that karma can go both ways. And there is an alternative, and that is for them to create a matrix similar to the one that's in the parallel Eka, where there was a group called the Adonai that were part of the Adonai races that they actually chose to fall to create a last chance resort Christic matrix for those who couldn't reclaim the ability of full ascension, but they could live the rest of their time out in a black hole system that was based upon Christic principles. They're rather militant about it, though. Like, you know, you start acting like a psycho in there, you get a couple chances, but after a while, sorry, you're back out the gate, and when you go back out the gate, you go back to space dust. So it's like when a person accepts a host into a matrix like that, realizing they're going to fall, that, you know, one way or the other, they're going to end up in a system that is going to at some point implode, because that's what black holes will do. It is inevitable, no matter how much energy you steal from elsewhere. But if they make a deal with groups like this, and there are numbers of them in different time matrices, that they're kind of like the highest evolutionary imprint for a black hole system, where it can still live on Christic principle of fairness and love and equality, and set up. What they tend to do is appreciate. They have a level of appreciation that's actually taught the ascension races things, where once you realize you'll never be able to ascend anymore, once you realize there will be, at some point, an end for you, and realize that's not the case for everybody, and you get over the fact that you're mad because somebody else hasn't and you don't anymore. You started with it. You lost it. Accept responsibility for whatever it was you did that got yourself in that situation. Then there can be peace, and then there's an appreciation. It's almost like if somebody said, well, you got cancer and you got 2 years to live. All of a sudden, the stupid stuff doesn't matter anymore, but the beautiful stuff does. The things that make you feel good, the things that are wonderful in the world. They have an appreciation, these particular types of fallen race matrices have an appreciation for arts and music and architecture and almost Virgo-like perfected use of energy and that kind of stuff, because they are trying to use what they have left in the most highest expression possible. So they do have some of the most beautiful forms of music and art and architecture and those kind of things. Well, the opportunity was asked for by the Hathor falling races, who have a portion of the Hathor shield coding in their DNA, because a long time ago there was a hosting attempt for the Anu races that the Hathors got involved in. And even though it failed, there are still many good qualities in certain races like the Hathors. And the Hathors, on behalf of all the Anunnaki races that do not want to be Budharid, we call it being shantied, actually, because it's the Budhara Chantarelle. So those who don't want to be shantied will have the opportunity, because Hathor command of the Akasha A.Risha Lay Council agreed to help them set up a Christic matrix. Now, what that, of course, requires is the assistance of the Indigos, who at this point are trying to get out. Because what's happening on the planet, and not just the planet, but from the Eka down, is that it is mission abort. You cannot salvage the grids now. So now it is personnel. Now it is who can come out, not just how much grids can be brought out of the system. So there are advantages, as well as having the peace it might give you of helping a charity, like the Hathors setting up their Christic falling matrix. There's also a very practical note to the agreements that let's say the Hathors got us all into. If we don't combine the grids that both sides have, the Hathors and their affiliates that are going with them, and ours, we're not going to be able to make the link to the Hathor grids that are going to allow us to be able to get out. Now, I'll talk about that a little more tonight once I talk a little bit about where we are now, where we came from, where we are now. I'm going to go through a really quick flash. You know how you do flashcards with little kids? Yeah, really fast so they can just identify the letters, and eventually they stick. Well, we're going to go through a fast one on we're not starting it. This is a Cathara grid. Well, actually we are, but we're going to go for 2 seconds on that. But we're going to bring it up to, once we review what plan are we on now? Where did this start? Because it's moved really fast since the year 2000. Once we see that, then we're going to look at the progression of the information really fast as how it pertains to that, and get us up to the point where we look at the planetary issues. Some of you have been in India, some of you have been in Morocco, some of you have been in both, some of you have been neither, and it's going to be very piecemeal, the information as far as, all right, we know the planet's all messed up at this point. It will help us to understand what is messed up, so we understand what is messing up now, which is the next step in the messing up of the planetary grids, and it has to do with what is happening in the Gulf of Mexico, which is just the beginning of what their beloveds are saying is just the beginning of certain earth change type things that are occurring as a result of the UIR and Budhara coalition and what they are doing to the planetary grids. The announcement, number 2, that they wanted me to make was that after this progression of things that really started a very long time ago, but we tuned in the year 2000 when the stellar activation cycle started again, what is happening now is very similar to what happened at 2 different periods in history. One was in 208,216 BC. It was called the Fall of Brenaway. And the last time what is similar taking place happened in 22,326 BC during the Iani massacre. That happened on Earth as well. We're not going to be massacred, so don't have to worry about that. But what is similar to now and those 2 periods in time was when evac engage order is given in a situation where planetary grids are crashing. There is something called a lockdown that occurs with evac engage. Lockdown means the gates are going to be closed. They are going to be forced closed. Because if they're not, it will spread through all sorts of other matrices, both in the parallel and everything. So the beginning shutdown cycles are starting. Actually, they started, I believe, what did they say? About the 15th of September? Yeah, somewhere around there. They've started the initiation cycles. This means the planetary stargates that we've been meticulously trying to go visit and protect and do rounds since 2000 are going to be forced closed. Because if they're not, there's going to be a back-run red pulse that goes all the way up. And it will just bounce off when it gets to the top of the Akasha and come back down, and we'll all go back to space dust very quickly all together. And that's not the best case scenario. So it is a gate lockdown. What this means, too, is the host link gates. Now we've gone through a series of, okay, well, the UIR did this, so now the next thing that our guys can do is this. There's a number of host interface gates. They began the Trinity gate links, and then they began the Polarian gate links, because the Trinities were going to fail without the Polarian gates. They started with the ARC gate interface systems and the Amente gates. The Amente gates fell, and the new ones can't be made functional at this point because they were reset. We are still in a starburst cycle, which makes things a little more complicated because that means every year we get a red pulse. And if the grids can be balanced, it will move through the grids in a balanced way. What we do have to look forward to in this situation is, in fact, the only thing we have to look forward to in this situation is the fact that there are the teachings and the reality of the places called the hub. Because the hub worlds have a gate interface system also. Not all people can access those gate interface systems. Metatronic beings cannot go through into the hubs because they will go back to space dust on contact with the gates. And there's nothing the other people on the other side can do. It is just, there is a certain level of pure Christic integrity that must be in the template to even be able to tolerate the high frequencies of the inner hub spaces. So this is why, because all of the gates at this point are entering their lockdown cycle, and I don't just mean in our universe, they are already shut down on Tara and Gaia. We're down here in Density 1, Earth. Density 2, Tara, staff is reversed. Gates have gone locked down. There's been quite a bit of damage, actually, and they are under Budhara control. They attacked Gaia, or Polaris, that's Density 3, from Tara. They compromised the Gaian passage, which means there's automatic shutdown on the Lyran passages. We are down here now in Density 1. Our soul level incarnations are in density 2. Our oversoul incarnations are in density 3. They are in the process of being in systems where the currents are fully reversing on the planet, which means they will either choose space dust or reverse as well. They are attempting, the Buddhara are attempting to use relatives, incarnates of ourselves in those spaces, to downrun right into the bodies down here so they can claim the bodies here. What do you do when your soul goes to hell and you're still here? Just to put it bluntly. I mean, we think about ourselves, oh, we're the little incarnates down here in density 1. You are a consciousness down here, incarnate in density 1. You have your soul level self, consciousness, energy fields, and physical density 2 manifestations in density 2. If density 2 falls and you're in density 1, what does that mean? That means we have a big responsibility. It means that any one of us that still has a soul or oversoul level that hasn't been consumed by the fall in those spaces, it will be hosting into us. We will be getting real rapid soul integration because your soul is running right into your body at this point. Now, it's an energy hosting situation that even allows it to happen, and it requires fast activation of the Merkaba fields. And we are, at this point, the hosting vehicle for the cells and incarnates of ourselves up in density 2 and 3. Now, okay, we get them all down here in density 1, then what? You know, the gates are closed in density 2, they're closed in density 3, and the staff is reversed and on its way reversing here. Yeah. What do we like, put ourselves in a big dinghy and float off into outer space? Not exactly. The Cantaria temples are the hub gate systems, and they run into the Vecca systems as well. We'll show you what those maps look like, where they fit into the Eka maps of the God World Gates, so you can understand the basic orientation. If you can understand the Eka maps as the skeleton of creation, kind of like if you looked at yourself, just your bones that holds up the rest of your manifestation, well, the Eka maps are like that. They excuse me, show you the literal relationships and gate exchanges, and it's like you are here, and God is here, and there are like all these other places here. They are literal maps of the cosmos. Now, when you see the hub spaces plugged into these, it will give you, again, you're going to get the bones, and hopefully you're going to get some of the cells, which are the little round things, the spheres of energy that form on them, and that's where I get going squirrely, doing all these diagrams with balls everywhere. And the balls are fine. I can see the pictures. It's getting the words on what balls might these be? What level are they at? What do they have to do with us down here? Do we need to know about these balls this time around? Yeah. So we're getting more diagrams tomorrow that will show us some of the basic, what they call the, what do they call them? The stair-step cell clusters. It's not just radon cells. We have radons, we have rishadons, we have cathradons, we have unisons, which are the first ones up on the top level. So we're going to see these. These are the first outer manifestation of the hub. They are not in the hub. There's a whole set more of ball diagrams that go, see where you have Cathara grids, they imply spheres of energy around them, multiple levels of spheres of energy. So every time you see even one Cathara grid, it implies a Miage field, a Trion field, a Rayon field. It implies several other fields we didn't even know were there that we're going to learn about probably in the next 2 workshops. Because what they're going to introduce tomorrow about the hub and about seeing where that fits in the Eka maps. If we can remember, the Eka maps are also the maps of our own personal body systems from here up into our first individuation point from source. So all of these sets of radiation fields, of spherical radiation fields, some of them around us, some of them are like lots of little balls within a big ball, and we're all in the middle of these things. When we can figure out what ones we need to do what with in order to get our Merkabas and DNA to do whatever is needed in order to get the Cantaria host. The Cantaria host would not be we would not be able to even open the gates here if it weren't for the Haturs of the Akasha A level. That's the second step down from first level creation. All right, that's like we're in the Vecca, then there's the Eka, then there's the Akasha, then there's the Akasha A, and then there's the Akasha A. Well, the Akasha A level had to intervene. at this point, because they are the command of the monadic gate systems, and it is only with them releasing certain frequencies that the cantorias can open, and they will only be opened in the event that wherever they're opening to, the grids can handle it, first of all. It means the indigo shield, with a little bit of help from the Hathors, can hold the cantoria host, at least for now. What they need to do is get our fields as ready as quickly as possible, because again, when and if a literal physical evac occurs, there will be 3 days' notice. We may not be able to have a workshop about that. We may be all in different places on the planet, and we just may get an inner call. It may be a voice that says, "Yo, time to go," right? Yeah. It may be a feeling instead, like an agitation, like, uh-oh, something's changing. There are going to be some people who experience it by going to sleep. And if it is the physical, if their bodies come with them, they will actually go to sleep during the process, because it would be too traumatic to try to hold that in the consciousness. Now, there are a couple scenarios we are aiming for at this point. The when, we're not sure yet. It depends on how this goes. What is happening on the planet at this point is the main grids of Earth, of the Earth body, are going to fall. There are some things that can host with the indigo shields and the human shields. We're going to host whatever humans can come out, and we're going to help the other guys get over into a quarantine in the Wiesa black hole system. And they're going to help us to generate enough frequency to be able to allow the Hathors to open the Cantoria temples. Because if there's not enough frequency running in these grids, if you opened those gate systems, it would explode whatever you opened it into. So it's between what the Hathors, even though they're falling, what grid space they still own on this planet and in this universal system, by combining part of it in some kind of, they didn't even give it a name yet. It's blending, kind of like braiding a reverse current, turning it inside out so it's not reversed. It reverses on itself, which means it goes back to what it's supposed to be temporarily, but it's kind of like a boomerang. You can only do it for so long because it's going to spin back into its reversal. But for a short period of time, you can blend together so we can amplify each other's strength in order for them to get up and over into their falling system where they want to go, and we can get up and out, and the planetary grids can sustain the Cantoria temples opening. I don't know the time frame on this, but I do know the training that's going to be involved. We were going to do Rashareisha body training anyway. Now, we have recently discovered the Rashareisha body is part of the hub body that goes with the Akasha level. We have an Echo 1 below that, and we have Veka 1, a Veka Primal Light Field 1, and a Veka Density 1 below that. And then there's the Rashareisha vehicle. That is the Akasha A level. In order for us to be able to participate in the Cantoria host, some of us in the Indigo Shield need to be able to activate physically as much as possible, as much as the body and the DNA will hold, the Akasha A level of their vehicles. This means not just diamond sun crystal body activation. It means indigo sun and something called the violet sun, which is going not only up to the Echo level, it's going over to the parallel Echo level and then up into the Akasha levels to be able to anchor the frequencies of the Akasha A. Not everybody will be able to hold that, and I don't know if we can, personally. Me and Az, I don't know if we can. All I know is I'm getting palpitations all over the place these days. Heats, colds, palpitations. What's next? I don't know. But we're going to assist the planet to do that. A lot of people will be doing different kinds of evacs. They warned us even before we went into evac engage, when we were on evac alert in India, that there would be, I think they said 7, I have to go read the manuscript again, but 7, I think, waves of mass evacuations via the vessel of natural disaster type things, where there'd be whole soul groups going out before certain starburst pillars went, because they couldn't sustain if they went through that starburst, so they were going to get out so they could get their hosts before. So I have a feeling that they said that the New Orleans thing that happened was 2A. A. I get it that I think it goes to C. I don't know if Hurricane Rita, qualified as B. I don't think it did. So when we see things like this, realize that even though it is sad on the outside, especially for the people that are still here, It's the people that lose other people that tend to be more upset than the people that cross over, especially if they cross over and realize they woke up. Because most people, people that are asleep, they when they die, they think they're going to be dead. And then you get surprised, because even if you're in a black hole system, you wake up. And I go, it is a bit weird. Yeah. Yeah, we had a near-death experience at the age of 18, and it was a revelation. I remember getting stuck in a tunnel, going, why am I still feeling? Everything's black, right? Don't see light anywhere, don't hear anything. Everything's pitch black. I must be dead. Then why am I saying that to myself? I still feel miserable, right? Help! And then somebody came and talked to me and convinced me to come back. Yeah. So anyway, so for the people that do cross over, it's not as horrible as the people left think it is for them. Now, a lot of people will cross back over into their soul groups, and a lot of those groups will be falling ones. And that is between them and their soul groups. If they were being inspired, they would have found technologies, or at least frequencies, on the planet that would help them to do the work required to not fall. Because right now, it's work not to fall. The easy path, the path of least resistance, is a path right down into actually the Buddha black hole. Now, the path of a little more asserting yourself and having to do something and not just let the universe carry you along is the people who are going to go for the Hathor host into the Wisa quarantine black hole system. They will have it much better because there is a sincerity with the Hathors, and they can be very, very militant. Hathors can be. The Egyptian ones used to be brutal. About protocol. And if you agree to come in on that host, you are going to behave. And if you don't, you're out of here. And you know what out does. Right? So you don't come in without knowing what out does. So the only ones that are going to come in to that host are ones that really, really want to be nice, that really want another chance to be able to try Christian living, to try peaceful living, which is good. So they will have partly what they've always wanted. And they'll be running around with a bunch of peaceful people who really want to be peaceful and who are still very arrogant and think that they're the masters of the universe. And it's going to be interesting to see the lessons they're going to have to learn in that matrix, which they will. And if they'd learned those lessons before, they would be on these teams and not the following teams. But at least they will have a space where they can learn some basic ways of looking at existence and coming to terms with their existence, what they've done to themselves, and what the potentials are to still experience joy. And they have the ability to evolve as highly as the Adonai did over on the other side. So that is good for them. And I know I feel a lot better because there's a lot of people that I know, on this, particularly on the various levels, that have their incarnates here that I knew were not going to make the leap. I just knew it. Yeah, I knew it in Atlantis, I think. I was like, oh no, don't do that. You're going to really regret it in the future. I'm not sure when, but I know you're going to regret that. Yeah. And just because someone messes up and does things, and even if they become rather horrible or awful, it doesn't change the fact that somebody loves them. And it feels better that even if the people that are going to go on the path of, let's say, medium descent, they're not going on the path of ascent, but at least they're not going to the depths. And at least they're going to a place where they have the potential to be happy. So this is a good thing. Now, the other guys are us. What do we have to look forward to? There's two types of training we need. One is advanced Rashareisha activation, and we are going to be progressively being given technologies to work with that. This is going to get wild because this is where you start getting spontaneous out-of-bodies happening if you're not having them already. And not like, you don't direct this process, your own higher level does, right? It's like, it's time, and you find yourself scheduled for a workshop elsewhere, and you will go because your body will chemically put itself to sleep. So if you're like driving and you feel the drowsiness coming, pull over. Just for a little while, they'll give you time. I mean, it's like not, it's not as if like the Hathors are doing it to you. This has to do with your own avatar level of consciousness and density 4, trying to keep the line through the host of the Kantriya temples to try to keep you online so you can keep the frequencies so you don't end up getting caught in the time wave that's going to go into one of the paths of descent. All of this is about time waves. Time waves are pulses of energy that have different rhythms, base pulse rhythms. And certain base pulse rhythms are those that are characteristic of the time cycles, space-time continua, that are manifesting and are already manifest in certain future probabilities of the path going down, and others are characteristic of the path going up. The path going up time waves are much faster. Their base pulse rhythms are much stronger. They involve more frequency, so they're harder to reach. And if your bodies are kind of like at a medium rate and you don't do something to reach higher, they will go down into the average co-resonance. So we're going to be taught how to activate things we shouldn't have had to activate for another few lifetimes. And this is good. Now, some people are already too tired, some of the indigos. And you can feel it in your body if you are. You know, you might have the greatest intentions. Sure, I'll live to be 1,000,000. I don't care. You know, sure, I'll take my body with me. Sounds like fun. The big thing is not having to, right? That's when you have the most chance of being able to, is when you're not terrified of not taking your body with you. There were systems up in the other densities where it was much worse as far as the direct in-your-face conflict, where we were trained to drop our bodies as soon as we were captured. So we couldn't be captured in our bodies and held there. Okay? We learned not to be particularly attached to our bodies, whether we took them or not. The important thing was taking our consciousness with us. Now, for some of us, there is still the possibility of physical evac if we can activate various levels of the Rashareisha vehicle. For others, you may have the potential, but what it would take to put your body through that. I mean, it's like having menopause amplified 1 billion times, some of these things, and this is just the beginning. I mean, some of the heats feel like literally liquid invisible lava on your skin. They burn. And it's like, get it off me, get it off me. They stop. But it's not pleasant. Some people aren't going to want to go through that just to take their flesh with them when they have another option. The other option is called Bardo. Now, Bardo is not Bridget. Bardo. Sorry. I wasn't really thinking of that, but I was going, no, not that Bardo. No. I got a bit of training in proper Bardo recently when our kitty Elohai, who is not just a kitty, who was my Elohai companion that used to help me anchor frequency, and she was part of my soul group, and it was like ripping half of myself off when she left, chakra-wise. Rip. She taught me some amazing things from the moment it happened. I knew before because she came right here and told me. I was going, Elohai, where are you? Because she usually she'd go outside and she'd come in the morning. She wasn't coming in. And I can usually feel her. Like sometimes she'll hide in the bushes and kind of watch me go. I could feel her doing it, right? I didn't feel her anywhere. There's usually a reverb where wherever her fields were, she'd bounce back, and I could feel, all right, you'll come when you want to, kind of thing. It just, the sound when I called her just went out into oblivion. It was the eeriest sound. And I started to cry. I mean, she wasn't there. And I was wondering, where is she? And going, Elo, come home. And I mean, I'm cool with death, but it doesn't mean you don't miss somebody that you love, that you buddy, And all of a sudden she was right in my face, like staring me, nose to nose, but in my inner vision, she's going, and she used to telepath to me in English, right? Not just pictures, but in English. Even when she was alive, she said, I am home. Right? And I said, what do you mean? You didn't drop the body, did you? And she wouldn't answer me. She just kind of kept looking at me, kind of beaming love at me, like, it's okay, calm down. I knew this was going to be hard for you. I said, all right, where are you? Where are you? I was like, this is going to be terrible, because if we don't find her, we don't know if she's alive or hurt, or, that's the worst one. You don't know if they're out there in pain, and you can just, you try not to imagine the worst, but, when you love somebody, or, she's not a thing. She is a somebody, just like anybody in this room. And she arranged the whole thing as a lesson, which was quite amazing. She chose where and when she was going to leave. And if I had been a little more attentive, I would have realized she was withdrawing from me emotionally a little bit for the couple weeks before. Still there, still reassuring, but not doing as much cuddles, not coming by me as much, breaking the connection so it wouldn't be as severe with the chakra system tearing, because that's what happens when you lose a loved one. The chakra bonds tear, and it is physical pain. Then she taught me First of all, she had one of our friends find her. She was right up the road, but instead of me or us finding her, or Lex, she had a friend of ours named Kate find her. And then Kate came back crying, "I'm kidding," Bless her. So she chose Kate to bring her, to us. Then the instruction started. Oh boy! Talk about keep you focused when you're in a time of need. I was told specifically, what incense I was supposed to use, why I was supposed to use it, how long I had to leave the body wrapped in a certain way at a certain place, then what was to be done with it. She walked me through the entire Bardo process and explained the differences that would be needed for a human compared to an animal or a four-legged, depending on the size of the shield. It was quite remarkable. And she was in my head chattering constantly. She used to do that to me when she was alive. She was a very healer type kitty, and she'd put her third eye chakra on you and project energy in and run. And she used to sit vertically all the time like a human. And she talked in English when she telepathed. She says, "How long?" She was telling me, "How long is it going to take humans to recognize that cats are naturally telepathic and are multilingual?" Like, what is with you people? Get it already, right? Yeah. Not all cats are Elohai cats. Some have been corrupted, and some have some quite not nice beings living in them, actually, or being used in that way. But certain type of cats, particularly certain breeds, still hold a lot of the gene code. White Persian is one of them. A lot of the Persian lines still carry a lot of the original Elohai gene codes. She was one of those. But she taught me about Bardo. And I knew bits about Bardo. But we could have wrote a book together on this one. And it was good because it focused me as well. So if I can be productive, I'm okay, even if I'm grieving. But it taught me a whole bunch of things about the grieving process as well that I might have been a little out of touch with, just myself, because I am a walk-in. And being a walk-in is like you viewed everything from a distance for so long, hanging in the astral field, that it's all kind of dull, emotionally. Like it's there, but it's not as immediate as somebody who's really, really anchored and grounded. Boy, grief has a way of bringing you right in the body. Right? And she taught me a lot of things about it. And these are some of the trainings that are on the other hand of Rishareisha training, or even Rashareisha training. It's people that want to and can bring the bodies will train for both, and people that know they're not going to can train for both. Because whether or not you take your body with you, you still need your Rishareisha vehicle. And you don't need your body to have it. You can, however, if you can get the body frequencies in the DNA up to par, actually take the body in it and go through transmutation. Now what that would look like, because we're on the quick path here, there's not 50 years, 500 generations left to gently purge the DNA and get us all where we could do that. What the people who are able to sustain physical Rishareisha activation, there is going to come a time, they are telling me, in the future when something that we used to get visions of, and we never knew where they fit. We knew they were in the future sometime, but we didn't know if they were in this probability, if we'd ever see them, and we never really worried about them. They fit in this timeline, I'm finding out. And in those visions, there were meeting places. One of them, I know, it was really funny, I know where mine was, in the visions, and there were ships that came in. And these ships are Merkabahs, but they're massive Merkabahs from the higher levels. And they look like ships when they're in their spin phase, when they're coming in. And they can actually manifest as anything you want. They can manifest as a casino, they can manifest as an apartment building, they can manifest as a cruise ship. I mean, whatever hologram you need, right? So you don't feel terrified, that kind of thing. Our guys, because we talk openly about the nature of angelic and or ET races and those kind of things, it's no big deal. Like, why do a cruise ship? Haven't seen a spaceship in ages. Might be fun. So they're preparing us for a time when there will be a physical presence, brief as it may be, but there will be pickup points. They're going to begin giving us something called the safe zone maps, which they'd only talked about before, and they were only going to be released if it were going to be necessary. Because basically you can create your own safe zones most of the time. Not when a planet's staff is reversing. There are places that are more connected to the Cantoria network that will hold the grids for longer. And they will be able to have small pieces of the planetary shield in those areas, what's called phase bonded, into the hub of the planet. Because the planet has a hub too. It has its original perfect version that had its own evolutionary timeline. And that we would plug into a co-resonant timeline that is closest to what this timeline is here, but in the Christic sense. So we are going to be given safe zone maps. And we're going to be prepared for the day when, because they're saying it's more of a when at this point than an if, it becomes necessary to at least temporarily take the bodies off the planet, because certain things are going to happen that we don't want to be here for, that if you are here for, you will stay here forever with it. Now, that doesn't mean everybody's going to get wiped out on the planet. What it means is there are certain changes that are going to take place at a certain time that mark the point of fall. And once that has occurred, the Cantoria links will close. And once that happens, you have chosen your evolutionary cycle for the rest of your time in the matrix. Yeah. So, it will be more so, it seems, a vision of, what are we aiming for, of once upon a time when we are going to try to help host the majority of people off the, like with the planet into a safer, more higher evolutionary path. This planet doesn't want to go there. Its people aren't going to go there, a lot of them. If there's going to be a separation at this point, we are going to be the ones to leave, is what it comes down to, because we can't take it with us anymore. There's not enough of the grids left to bring them through, but there will be, I get a feeling that there's a little bit of leeway in that. And it has to do with whatever points on this planetary sphere are still, in whatever way, connected to the Cantoria temple networks. So we're going to be learning more about that. What we're basically going to start with is the beginning of Rashareisha training. At some point, they will introduce Bardo training. And Bardo simply is dying well, how to do it right. So you don't get hung up in your transition, terrify yourself, make it all difficult and that kind of thing. There is a right way and a wrong way to leave your body when it's time to move on. Now, there's a lot of people in the general world that may never want to hear about ascension or any of those things that would really benefit from those kind of teachings too. So they're ideas that you'll be able to share, that they haven't been given to us, only a little bit on how to do it with animals, and that was just scribbled down in a notebook someplace for the immediate time. But this will be part of the Rashareisha training. One of the things that I think they're going to start focusing on is the bodies, where they're going to start helping us with the physicalities of the bodies. Because whether you're taking it with you or not, the better condition you can get it into as far as its general strength and its ability to hold calm, steady frequency, to override those palpitation frequencies that are being beamed through from the UIR. The stronger, the higher point of frequency your body is at, when you decide to leave it, whenever that may be, the higher you start off when you move. And that's better. That can make the difference between a rise and a fall back into the old base pulse rhythm and the old timeline once you leave the body. Because there's a short gap where you accelerate really fast and then decelerate and then come back up to a medium. That deceleration point is directly in relation to the acceleration point. Kind of like you have to bounce up out of body and then you kind of go wow, and then boing, back up into the middle, and then you have your base pulse rhythm. And that is the time frame or time wave you will be able to coast once you get out of body. Now, if you're trying to avoid getting sucked down into the vortices of time waves that are pulling down, you need to bounce up high enough so when you bounce low, you'll have a lot of energy when you hit that middle space, and you'll be able to go over into the hosting lands. So the bodies are important, whether we're taking them or not. And whatever they are, we can do the best with what we've got. At some point I imagine maybe I'll quit smoking, maybe. Once I'm sure that nobody's interested in body snatching me. Because if nothing else worked, and if I get too tired for field combat, which it often is, because they're always trying to whack at the body. They would love to get this, even at this point, just to shut its mouth. Stop her already, to shut her up. Nicotine is a wonderful thing, and no, we don't recommend using it because it's a poison. And as long as I keep my body at a relative state of poisoned, nobody wants to snatch it. Well, they want to, but they can't. Right? So it's not something I would recommend to anybody. But and at some point, I may even, if I have enough energy left with all the other stuff I tend to point my energy at, if I have enough energy left to do the extra field fortification and the constant fly swatting, because it's like having a fly swatter in the astral field. You know, you go to the grocery store and somebody bumps into you or whacks you on the shoulder. So, get off, you know, will you stop with the implant stuff already, you know, this kind of thing. So certain things they're a shortcut, and that's like why I do smoking. But they're going to focus on some things we can do with our bodies, as well as our physical bodies, but as well as our mental bodies and our emotional bodies, as we learn to begin these processes. They haven't given me the technique yet that tomorrow we're going to be using, but I hear it's proper use of a pentagram. And it's like, great. I've played with pentagrams on all of our maps, on all of the stuff we have, just to see, because I know in the original, like, tangible structure of the soul, they were given as the key to the Hala phase, Merkaba, really, to the density 2, soul level body. Why? I want to know why. I want to know why this works. We understand why 6-pointed stars work. You know why that shape? Yeah, Merkabas. Yeah, well, what does this 5 thing do? And I just started to trip over it. I don't know the exact alignment yet, but it has to do with connection points, not just between Kathara centers, but between Kathara centers and Rishe pillars on 2 densities. And it begins the process of opening. I'll show you some of this tomorrow, God willing, if I get these diagrams done. There are 2, the Huva bodies. There is a fast fire way to bring them together on the void line, right? And that's actually what fully activating your Merkaba for that level is. So if you want to activate a holophase Merkaba, which is the one that takes you to density 2, the holophase Merkaba actually rides the void. And if you remember the Eka maps, or even just a Kathara grid that shows the shield that runs between the bottom of the Kathara grid and then the next level, density 2, right? That's the void between density 1 and 2. That's the center point of the density Merkaba. And that's where you bring your lower Huva body from down here up, and the higher one comes down into 1. And we're going to begin the process of this. I don't know what they have in mind. I don't know how to use a pentagram properly, so I never use them. You know what I mean? No, because I know they can be used wrong. They can be used to activate Shona fields and to direct them and that kind of stuff. And we just don't do that stuff. So we're going to get that tonight, as well as the graphs. As far as like later tonight, I mean not tonight while we're all together, tonight after you guys get to go back and go to sleep. Yeah, it's going to be another one of the hose workshops. Yeah, they're kind of like 36-hour, 72-hour workshops for us when they run like this. But we're going to get that and the graphs for tomorrow. I wanted to recap a bit. I have to watch on time tonight, too, because I'm not supposed to go too late. I'm at this point, and I hope you'll be happy with, because there's a lot of talented people that are astute in whatever areas of the work that they have been studying that have been helping us to give workshops, the Kathara team people and those kind of things. So it's not as if we just like leave you wandering around all day and get around to talking to you for an hour or 2 here and there. But I don't feel that it's that important to stay with you tonight all the way till 11 o'clock or anything. I'm going to let you go in time for a decent dinner and that kind of stuff, and we're going to go back to work. Well, I'm going to go back to work. Az is still working. He's still doing paste ups up there right now. I do want to talk about a few other things. I don't have a watch on me. Anybody know what time it is? Almost 6? Oh, good. We have time. Yay. Yeah, I get very oblivious to time when I'm up here. Also when I'm working on graphs and things. I go into hyperspace with time. In fact, if there's clocks on the wall, I can't even see them a lot. They literally don't register in my vision. So anyway, I'm going to probably let you go I'm going to aim for, I hate this because I give times and then it never works, but I'm going to try for 7:30. And that means I can go through some of the things I wanted to. Most of you have I wouldn't say most, a good percentage of you have, a lot of the program, the technical information. I'm going to present a little bit of that with the Mylars in a particular sequence to get us up to some of the new graphs that are going to be in K23, but these aren't the monad ones. These are just recap graphs that touch on, in Cathara 2.3, the environmental problem we have. The beast is being identified in K2.3, which is interesting. That was always kept separate. They were kept as the controversial teachings, right? It's not, we're not talking about who, what, when, where, why. We've got the what and what it does. So we are revealing the beast mechanism. But, anybody that wants to know the history and that kind of stuff, they can find that elsewhere, not in K2.3. But there are a couple graphs that consolidate it well. So we just understand the planetary influences that we're dealing with. Like, if you want to know what your Merkaba field looks like right now, I think 23.5 degree shift, right? Except if you've been working with these techniques. Because what this does is bring it back to its natural orientation, because it's overriding the frequencies, where it was anyway, overriding the frequencies that are holding the planetary grids and the solar grids of this. It's literally, this is not a small problem. This is a problem that affects our solar plane as well, and the fact that there's a black hole that even our scientists have found at the center of the Milky Way galaxy, and another one at the center of Andromeda. Yeah. There's another thing, I don't know if they're going to integrate, but there's some stuff pulled off the internet that somebody sent to us. Some scientists are writing about this blue cloud of what appears to be stars or something, and they're like really, really far out, light years away. But they seem to be digesting everything that they move through, like absorbing it, and kind of like they compared it to acid. And they don't know what it is, but it's moving toward our solar system. I don't know what this is, but it's on the internet. Anyway. But they did mention that there is, the science thinks now down here that there is a black hole in the center of the Andromeda galaxy as well as in the center of ours. And they're partially right, because part of Mirac Andromeda fell. And that, that has been there for a while. That is part of integrated into the beast system. Another part of Andromeda will be our saving grace, and that's the part that's connected to the Cantoria temples, because there's a particular alignment. This is where, if we go into the Voyagers books, the original Voyagers 2 book, where we talked about the sphere of Amente frequencies being held out of the planet, but like up in the Andromeda galaxy in a safe place so they could be reintegrated at some point. Well, this has to do with that, and this has to do with the Cantoria temple networks. So we're going to be learning the beginnings of the Cantorias. They won't be giving us the maps now. I don't know when. They'll have them to us before we need them, as far as, it does help to know what grids to sit on if there's going to be an evac call. I do know the one thing that I find, it's almost a comfort, because when I first heard of the place, I didn't even know if it existed physically. And I saw the place where they were not just a ship come down for me and my friends. It was literally, we were running evacs, and there were these ships coming and going, and us getting groups of people out, and we had to get them out quietly. You couldn't take 500 people out, into the desert and have them disappear. No, they had to be gone in small groups, and you were getting them up and out. And the only place that ever kept going, I said, where is this place? Even if I never see it in my space-time, is it someplace that there's a counterpart? Because it feels like it's here somewhere. That was before I was ever to Arizona. Yeah, they kept saying, Mesa, Arizona, Mesa, Arizona. And I asked for ages, anybody ever hear Mesa, Arizona? Well, I've heard of Phoenix, I've heard of Tucson, I think there's mesas in Arizona, but nobody ever said there's Mesa. Then we finally found, it's like a suburb of Phoenix or something, and Phoenix happens to be Arc Gate 7. And Arc Gate 7 is one of the ones that are under very heavy protection that they're plugging into the Cantoria networks. So is Arc 12 and 11. So we've got those. Arc 2 doesn't look too promising. That's Stonehenge. So anyway, Mesa, Arizona is going to be one of the areas. I do know that. And there's going to be more. I do believe there will be 48 sites globally. There are 48 connections to the Cantoria Temple Network that would be on Earth. So I don't know where they are yet, other than Mesa, Arizona. Somewhere in Mesa, Arizona, and it looked like desert, where it looked like there wasn't much around. There's a bit of mountains you could see, and just kind of flat and a bit of shrubbery and stuff. And that's all I know so far. But I did have those visions since it's out of here because we're behind enemy lines, that kind of thing. There was also a whole set of other visions that went with it, where there were certain teams of us that were trained in advance to help other groups that actually knew nothing about what was taking place, but they actually could make it. and they were being collected, but it was very scary for them, very traumatic, and a lot of them were asleep when they were picked up, and they woke up on spaceships. And then we had greeters that would have to try to explain to them the situation, and in a calm way, and to keep them happy and to help get them to their accommodations, because these spaceships were like city craft. They had rooms. They're like flying hotels, that kind of thing. And I remember in those visions, I was one of the greeters, kind of going, it's okay now. And I remember it was scary, as I've seen a few faces of people that I've met in my life here that were actually in those visions, and I could tell they were upset about certain things. The most upsetting thing for some of them, and the reason why a lot of them, their avatar levels, had them take the sleeping route out, was not so much because they might be terrified if they saw a spaceship come down and invite them to go away, but the fact that their loved ones might not have been able to make it, because the spaceships are Merkabas, and they are host Merkabas, and they can only give you a certain amount of protection. If you can't hold enough frequency in your field, the ship itself, the Merkaba itself, the bigger one, would fry you, and you would go back, you would spontaneously combust. They're not going to pick up anybody that's going to spontaneously combust. Only the Zetas do that. And that was only before, when they were trying to figure out the body tolerances of people they were abducting here. Oh, lost another one. They did. They did do that. They played with cattle, but then they tried the same calibrations once they figured out how to make cattle go up and down, and it didn't work the same way on humans, so they lost a few. But anyway, what I want to do now, I'm going to sit for a minute. I feel like I'm more here when I'm standing. I feel like I'm hiding behind the table here, and it's like, put everybody to sleep kind of thing. So I try to, stand up and be here for when I'm talking with you. One of the things I did want to do is, what was that we got involved with the Guardian Alliance back in 2000? What plan are we on now? This is probably just a rough, but we're somewhere. I think we're on Plan H. I think it's H. Now, if I wasn't so busy drawing ball diagrams for this workshop and for the K-23 manual, I would have spent the last 3 weeks hunting down all sorts of whatever, the history stuff. It has to be compiled and brought together. There's 950 billion years worth of history records. Just little snippets here and there, but enough to make it a project. But I didn't have time to go with a fine-tooth comb through every bit, because there were so many things. Now, this one, our groups did this, then the UIR guys did this. Then we had to do that. Then we had to do this. Like tit for tat for 5 years now, right? But the basic gist of what we have been through, particularly for people who haven't been with us at all, who are just perhaps new to this work, God bless you. Plan A started in Atlantis. That's when we set this. Long time ago. That we knew this stellar activation cycle was going to be a showdown between the fallen angelics and the Christic races. We didn't know what degree it was going to be of showdown. We were hoping to do a unified stand with certain of the Anunnaki races, because there was intended a Drak invasion that was coming through the Zetas. The Zetas had already started it. They'd already laid the grounds. Do you realize it's been over 70 years that our governments have known and had direct contact with UFOs? 70 years! That's a generation! And we're still going, nah, I don't believe in UFOs. Right, great. What century might we believe in UFOs? But anyway, we had high hopes when we went into the stellar activation cycle. It went well in January of 2000. Our arc sparked. We got our flame of Amente back from Andromeda, which activated the Templar, the planetary Templar system, which means the Stargates could activate. That occurred in May of 2000. Everything was going fine. Now, there was a whole bunch of stuff that I was trained for at that point. I was trained as an ambassador, like a goodwill ambassador, right? But that has lots of technical knowledge about certain things that would help other groups. And I was supposed to go around with other groups, and I was going to get along with the people in the New Age movement, and we were all going to just do all that lovey-dovey, give peace a chance type stuff. And that didn't work out, because by the time we hit September of 2000, the Andromeda Chromaton races motivated the greatest percentage of the Anu races, whom we were going to do the let's bury the hatchet and give peace a chance bit with, we were going to do that dance, the Andromedes convinced them to join them instead and issue an edict of war against the Guardian races because they wanted control of Earth's Templar. And the Guardian mission had always been to return control of Earth's Templar and the Stargate system back to the stewardship of the angelic human races, whom were first commissioned to hold these gates. And because the Anunnaki think they're better than humans and they think they should be masters of the planet and masters of the universe, they decided they would work with the Andromeda Chromaton fallen groups in order to get what they wanted. And all of a sudden, somebody broke my Give Peace a Chance record, and I found myself feeling like a very little girl in a very large battle for a while. Because all those people that I had soul contracts with, a few of them who were leaders in the New Age movement, that we were supposed to endorse each other, and I was going to bring them technicals that they couldn't reach because they didn't have CDD plate clearing. They turned on me, and it was like, oh, what do we do now? We were in the middle of workshops in England, first time I ever went to England, and I think we'd only done 2, and I got directly attacked, and it almost shredded my fields. I mean, I'd never seen anything like it. And we were told immediately we had to go home. Cancel, 5 more workshops. I mean, it cost a fortune. We had to send everybody the money back really fast and get out because the grids got compromised. Because when we got back to, at that time, secured grids where we could find out what happened, what just happened, they said the UIR issued an edict of war against us. And it's been chaos ever since. So we went from that. That was Plan B started at that point. Plan A, give peace a chance. Let's all fix it together and smile and sing songs and dance with the flowers. No, that wasn't going to happen anymore. So Plan B was the Amareya Passage. That's when we did the Hawaii trips to try to open something called the Amareya Passage, which is a 369 up the right side of the Cathara grid and the planetary level that links into certain frequencies that go partially up to the hubs but not directly through them. We were supposed to do that in order to trigger an early Maharic seal on the planet to prevent the UIR and their groups from activating what we didn't know about consciously, not me, down here yet, something called the Beast, the black hole machine that is on this planet that they revealed only when they had to. They weren't here to scare anybody. They didn't want to have to reveal this information, but it became absolutely necessary if we were going to be able to protect ourselves and attempt to protect the planet. So in September of 2000, we initiated Plan B when they initiated the war edict. By September 2001, the drama escalated again. The UIR activated, they sent a certain set of pulse networks. This is in the Voyager's book, Voyager's Volume 2, second edition. They activated the Phi-X wormhole network, the Phoenix and the Falcon wormholes. These are the East Coast ones. There's one off the coast of, I believe, it's around Jacksonville, Florida, and the other is off the coast of, I think it's Charlotte, somewhere South Carolina, Charlotte, South Carolina, somewhere over there. So they're right sitting next to each other, actually. They're very close together in the Atlantic, very close to the land, comparatively. They're not like, way out by Bermuda or anything. These are very ancient, what are called APIN systems, Atlantean Pylon Implant Network systems, which are very sophisticated, you think about microchip technology? Well, how about macrochip technology? When you're talking about selenite rods deep within the ground that were seeded there and literally grown, how you can grow crystals in a little dish? We can also grow them in the earth under certain conditions. You can splice them in from other planets to bring other co-resonant factors in and use them to direct grids. That's what the APIN systems are. Our guys have some, and so do the intruder races, because this is a very long takeover plan. This didn't just crop up in the year 2000. So when the Phi-X was, we call it the Phi-X because these are the wormhole matrix that connect up into the Montauk matrices that have to do with the Philadelphia experiment. All right, so we call it the Phi-X set. And they run through the Phoenix and the Falcon wormholes, and they're connected to smaller sets of wormholes up in the Montauk region and that kind of thing. So they began activating that. We had a very physical scenery on that one. Airplanes ran into buildings to cover up the fact that the buildings would have fallen down all by their lonesome because the pulse took them out. And there had to be an excuse. So one was orchestrated. And maybe I'll get in trouble someday for saying that. But our beloveds have said that the whole time. They warned us that there was going to be something. They didn't tell us what. Because often we're safer without knowing. All right? What if if they told us about that? We started talking about it? Who do you think they would have arrested first? Right. If we don't know, we don't know. And hopefully that's good enough. So far, so good. So with that, we had the... in Plan B, during Plan B, we're doing the Amarillo Passage, FIAX wormhole set began their activation. Then we went through this period of trying to cap the wormholes, and there was kind of like a tit-for-tat back and forth. Our guys try to do stands to try to cap the wormholes, and we get them partially capped, and the other guys zap them with something else, and they get uncapped. And it was like, oh, stop. Yeah. This is the point where I was really having slight hissy fits with counsel and saying, I didn't train for this. Yes, you did, or you wouldn't have got the job. I know, but I hated those classes. I trained for ambassador training. I only took the others because they were required. Right? Which was the truth. You know, it's like, you know how if you're going to college and you're there because you really want to take like 3 classes, right? But you have to take 8. And the rest of the 5, you really, really don't like the subject matter. You really aren't interested in it, but you know you got to get by. And, you know, because you want to have a Dean's List average, you might as well get an A on them, too. But it doesn't mean you like them. Right? And what you try to do is forget all about them as soon as you leave and get your mark, right? Well, that's how I felt about open warfare. Right? That's how I felt about psychological warfare. Not that I couldn't pass that course, not that I didn't memorize those books somewhere. Yeah, but boy, I hate that game. And it turned out here we are in one. So we moved into the war game scenario. And I kept getting the thing that used to really irk me the most from people that were actually had field connections to the UIR people. But where's the love in what you're teaching? All you're teaching is fear-based stuff. You know, Archangel Michael teaches love, and he'll fix everything for you. And, oh, boy. You know, it's like, yes, and he'll lead you right down a black hole, and you'll be grinning the whole way, and you won't know that you're even down one. You know? So we went to Plan C in September 2001 after the 9/11 event. Because at that point, they'd activated the FIAX system, and that had the potential of activating a whole bunch of other things, including the beast that we still didn't know about. We countered that with Plan C, the ARC project, which was partially in operation with the Amarillo project, but it got much more important as far as anchoring the Rashareisha pillar arcs to hold the planetary grids and prevent the further activation of the beast grids and those kind of things. What it looked like is you were going to have war between different factions of the UIR and the Drax. They were going to just start fighting with each other, and nobody really cared much about us because they never took us seriously anyway. They didn't think we could make any difference. We made enough difference to be an annoyance, though. But we were trying to stabilize the grids with the ARC project. That lasted until 2002. In 2002, somewhere in there, and I'd have to look at the records to see what date what happened, but somewhere in there, the UIR initiated agreements with what are called the WISA black hole people. Now, there are 2 actually black holes in our particular time matrix system, 2 main ones that are not just like the little one at the center of our galaxy or anything. They're small compared to these. These are whole, like, big fallen systems. One is called the WISA system, and it's primarily of races that are connected to the Anunnaki races. And then in the parallel of our direct parallel system, PKA universe, there is the WISA black hole system. And these, usually there's not a lot of dealing between the WISAs and the other fallen races from this level. They kind of stay in their hole and we stay here. But they got really, really interested because the other guys, the fallen ones here, were so close to actually bringing it in, they needed a little help. And that would be more food for their black hole. So they made deals to open the WISA black holes in order to amplify the grid potential of the beast machine here so the whole thing could be drawn in. And they made agreements with the UIR. So all of a sudden the drama got bigger. Now we got WISAs. Who are WISAs? You know, it's like, I remember thinking, no. You know, we've got enough already, don't we? And it's like, for a while there was like, first you go, oh, the big bad ones are coming in now. 6 months later, oh, the big bad ones are coming in now. And it's like, where do the real scary ones stop? Okay, let's go to the top of the list. Forget the medium ones in between. What's the worst group that could come in? Okay. Because first it's the Wispers, then it's the Diesels, and then these, and then finally we're on Chanterelle. And I have been warned that they're pretty much the top level, but there is one group that's connected to them and works with them that's from over the other side, over the parallel Eka side. They didn't name them yet. I don't think I want to know, but I think they have wings and scales. I saw one in shadow form really briefly, like moving through the house. Every once in a while we get weird stuff moving through the house. And this was one of those, and it just had a real weird feel. And it was one of those that I couldn't identify. And right now I've got my let's say, crystal body banks very well tuned to, on contact, I can usually spot the soul group. I can usually feel the resonance of a person's primary gene code and soul group. It's a protection thing. It's just so you know who's actually